Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. There's no Tottenham walks today. Bugsy has been replaced by my second favourite creature in the world, and that is Dave from the Irish Hotspur. How are you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm keeping well, Shawnee. Thanks for having me. I'm not sure the public are going to adore me the way they do Bugsy, but look, I'll do my best.
It's really good to have you back on, mate. It's a quick video, like I say, replacing the usual the Tottenham walk. What we're going to talk about today, guys, is we're just going to sort of briefly get our thoughts off our chest regarding the club's decision to sell and loan two of the sort of remaining pieces of deadwood, so to speak, in Tanguy Ndombele and Davinson Sanchez. And then we're going to move and try and talk a little bit about and some interesting stats that have appeared and then materialized that I got wind of earlier today regarding Cristian Romero. And it kind of tells its own tale of this guy maturing incredibly quickly in his new role, and we're going to try and figure out why. So before we get into that, Dave, we're going to start with the news. Obviously, Davinson Sanchez has in fact moved. We got the here we go yesterday from Fabrizio Romano. We're not entirely sure of what the resulting price is. There's been a lot of like back and forth. People saying that it's up to 15 million euros. Some people saying it's nothing like that. I think the price does, in fact, shape the story a little bit, because there were those rumors that we could have sold him on deadline day for about 12 million to rent, but we turned it down. So depending on what price did actually happen, it might sort of shape the justification for this particular deal one way or the other. But in any event, not knowing that, in fact, Dave, what's your overall take on Sanchez? Are you happy that he's gone? Should he have gone now? Has the club made the right decision? Where do you sit on it?
Yeah, look, I'm happy that he's finally gone, Sean. I think everyone that knows me knows that I've had my problems with him. You know, not just he gets stage fright, right? When the big occasions come round, he just can't perform. And for me, I'm glad that we finally decided to cash in. However, you know, I'm not happy that it's done now when we can't act to bring someone else in here to give ourselves an insurance policy just in case Romero or a Van de Ven gets injured. I think we've left ourselves very, very light there. So look, glad that the deadwood is gone, Sean, but also concerned where it sort of leaves us. I'm glad that he has promoted Ashley Phillips. I think I'd rather take a trip into the unknown and trust our youth recruitment rather than persist with someone like Eric Dyer, or even just holding Sanchez around here just to do the same thing that they've always done, which is when they step in, they can't perform when there's pressure on. So I'm absolutely glad that Sanchez has been sold, Sean. But yeah. I do think it's a bit incompetent by the club not having concession plans, because, right, they would have known, okay, if we're not selling them deadline day, the turkey window is still going to be open, so we can still sell him there. There's interest there. So they would have known that he would have been on his way out the door. So I do think that it's maybe a bit, incompetent by the club not to get ahead of that on deadline day.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I'll give you my brief take as well. But guys, if you do want to have an in-depth kind of understanding of where Dave and I come at this particular topic, and in fact the Ash Phillips topic, we come at it from slightly different approaches, and we had a really good discussion about it. Then when you finish this video, get over to the Irish Hotspur, and depending on if he's uploaded it or what time both videos are uploaded, there's going to be a video out at some point today on the Irish Hotspur that talks exactly about this particular topic, the Davinson Sanchez transfer, and in fact, what do we do now with the replacement? Do we support the Ash Phillips appointment ahead of someone like Eric Dyer? I think it was a really interesting conversation. So make sure you go and check that out. For me, just in principle, in summary, I think that whilst I agree that waiting until after the deadline has passed so that it makes it impossible for us to go and find a suitable first team Premier League level replacement that doesn't really terrify the thought of the vulnerabilities of someone like Ash Phillips not having that experience. I think that there's more blame in my mind that goes on some of the players as the window reached its conclusion than say Dave does. I think Dave is sort of putting more of the blame on the club for not making tougher decisions earlier, getting these players out the door. I personally think that the players kind of worked together. Some of them, you know, Ndombele, Lloris, Sanchez, maybe Dyer, maybe one or two others, got together and decided that they weren't going to go, they weren't going to budge, and that they were hoping that the club would make them all whole on their contracts. And I think that once you do that once, you might have to set a precedent and do it with several other players, and then that creates a massive knock-on effect with the relative budget you then have left to be able to go, hoping that you would be able to do if the players left on their own terms. So it's quite nuanced, but ultimately it's a huge gamble. And for me, I feel like we are going to depend massively on Lady Luck helping us out for the next 3 or 4 months to see how we're going to fare. One injury in the international window, and Ash Phillips is going to have to be facing Martinelli, Saka, and Odegaard in 2 weeks later, which will be a baptism of fire. So, yeah, but if you do want to find out the details of that conversation, then get over to the Irish Hotspur. Dave, Ndombele, a little bit of an easier one, maybe. He's also gone, only on loan. It looks like we're only paying 40% of the guy's wages, which means we're picking up a £6 million tab for him this year. And in no doubt, in my mind, probably in yours too, he'll be back next summer. What's your thoughts on the Ndombele saga?
I think no obligation to buy tells me that it's just a means to an end for the year, so that the club don't have to shell out the whole 200 grand a week. The fact that there's no obligation to buy tells me he'll be back here next summer. The fact they're only covering 40% of the wages tells me he'll be back here next summer. And I think Tanguy Ndombele already turned down the move to Turkey, or wasn't keen on it earlier on in the window, which shows he doesn't really want to be out there. But again, it's just a means to an end for all parties. Look, I'm glad we found a solution. I'll concede on this one. If the club don't want to pay the money to rip up his contract, which will cost them a lot more money than others, I'll concede on this one. However, I just want to be rid of this problem, to be honest with you. But look, at least he's gone. Temporarily.
Yeah, do you think that Daniel Levy's ego gets in the way with some of these decisions? I mean, I like I said on the video that you guys are going to go and check out in detail, I do think that there's a problem if you tear up one, you tear up them all. But Arsenal have made some pretty tough decisions with regards to Aubameyang in the past. That was very expensive to get him done, and they're thinking about doing it again now with, I think, Nicolas Pepe, who is on ridiculous wages as well and has longer to run on his contract. So are we guilty a little bit? Is it an oversimplification just to say the precedent can't be set for one because then it will be used by all? Is it also a problem that Daniel Levy just doesn't want to lose, doesn't want to feel like he's losing a negotiation?
I think on this one, I would say yes, because when Paratici was director of football, we had no problem ripping up Aurier's contract, no problem sort of doing a deal with Doherty so that we could get Pedro Porro in here. The fact that he's only an advisor now, he can't he can have his say, but he can't really influence them decisions. And I think on this one, Daniel Levy has gone with trying to get money, at all costs for Ndombele rather than weighing it up. Look, Sean, we had this conversation the other day. I think we should rip it up. I think we should be done with a lot of this mess just so that we can progress quickly rather than be in the same boat every single summer, because whether we like it or not, it is coming back to haunt us. The reason why we aren't filling out the squad properly with players with players that are good enough and all want to be here is because we're being held back by these guys. The constant trying to find a solution, trying to get them out of the squad, but also the money that we're shelling out on wages. Look, we put ourselves in this position. No one done their homework properly on Ndombele, because if they did, they would have questioned why are we at the front of this when Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Man City, every single one of them were all rumoured with interest. Well, obviously, you look at a lot of their recruitment policies, right? They don't get a lot wrong. And that's because they go and delve deep into the player's background, what he's like off the pitch. Because whether you like it or not, yes, these guys are allowed to have fun. But 9 times out of 10, the way they live their life off the pitch affects their performances on the pitch. So we didn't do our homework on that one. Then in the likes of other situations like Hugo Lloris, we allowed that to fester. We knew he was coming to an end, but we chose to give him a new contract.
Yeah.
Eric Dyer, again, what did he do to ever warrant to be on 80 grand a week at this football club? True performances. It hasn't been there to warrant that sort of money. So it is a problem that we've self-created ourselves. And for me, I think we've tried long enough to hold out in windows, etc., to try and get fees for a lot of these guys. It hasn't come to fruition. So at some point, you have to just go, okay, well, we ain't continuing with this any longer. Gone. You're out. But the reason why Arsenal are doing it right now, Sean, is because they're a club with plenty of momentum and ambition behind them right now. Them owners, they sat there, they took the slack, And then all of a sudden, they changed tack. They started caring about the football club. They brought in Arteta. They backed him immensely. And they done whatever they could to get a lot of the players out that he didn't want to use. There was none of this steady progression. Look, you're going to have to use these players here until next window, till we can sell them. It didn't happen like that. They done their best to reshape that whole squad and move on under Arteta. And they've seen the benefits of it. Whereas us, because we've been up inside the top four, the club have continued to stagnate to do this. And now we're not in Europe. They're still continuing to stagnate to do it rather than learn and look at maybe what Arsenal have done and gone, okay, well, we need to take that approach now. We can't have guys holding us back. We can't have guys bigger than the football club. We can't have guys holding this club to ransom. But Daniel Levy, he's risk averse. He does not take that risk. He sees the bottom line, he sees the numbers, and he will not want to have any red numbers on that spreadsheet. So that's why he doesn't do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, perfect. Well, look, remains to be seen what will happen with that one, mate. I think that, look, we might end up with a contract being torn up for Hugo Lloris. Obviously, Ndombele's out of the way for now. Sanchez is gone. And like I say, guys, we are, if you want to find out what our thoughts are regarding Ashley Phillips and how much of a baptism of fire, then go to Dave's channel and you will see the upload very soon. It's a good conversation, that one. One that I enjoyed very much. Dave, I want to talk to you a bit about Cristian Romero, my man. I saw these stats yesterday and it caught me by surprise, and I had to go and compare them to what happened last year. So Cristian Romero's played 4 games in the Premier League. Obviously, against Brentford, he only managed 20 minutes. So he's played about 300 minutes, give or take, of football. And in that time, he has not conceded a single foul. Wow. He has not conceded or been given a yellow card or a red card. He is the second highest tackler in the Tottenham squad, half as much as Bissouma. Bissouma's got 16 tackles. Romero's only got 8. Van der Ven, I think, has got 8 as well. There's a lot of the defenders are also around 8 or 7. So Bissouma is head and shoulders above everybody else. But when you compare that to last season, the 22-23 season for Romero, bear in mind he didn't play every game. He was injured for quite a long period of it. He actually was the club's top fouler with 40, I think it was 44 or 42 fouls. I think he was also the top yellow card recipient with 8 yellow cards. He also got a red card to his name. And obviously that was just in the Premier League. There's other red cards. We can talk about Milan in the Champions League game, etc. So, look, to me, we're looking at a different player, at least so far this season. It's a small sample size, but his timing of his tackles seems to be at his absolute best. We're not seeing any kind of reduction in the aggressiveness of his tackles. When he wants to go in, he still goes in. But his time has been perfect. He hasn't given away a single foul, no yellow cards, and he scored 2 goals. We're seeing a different player here. And my question to you is, first of all, why? Is it something about form? The whole idea of form being temporary, class being permanent. Is his class emerging as a player, or is it a very hot run of form from a similar player to we had last year?
Do you know what, Sean? I'll put it down to 3 or 4 things. I think, look, the first one, it comes down to the style of play and tactics, right? We're on the ball a hell of a lot more. So you're reducing the amount of times you're asking him to defend or make them challenges. Whereas under Antonio Conte, as soon as we lost the ball, everyone retreated back to, on top of the box. So we spent large sort of periods of the game, under the cosh. But also, we're keeping the ball a hell of a lot better now. So we're in possession a lot more, which is a huge plus. I think second of all, Sean, you got to look at aggression, right? Aggression can either work for you or it can work against you. And I think it depends on the atmosphere surrounding you. I think when you look at Romero, to answer your sort of class maybe comment with this, when we got Champions League under Antonio Conte, he was outstanding for that 6 months. Absolutely outstanding. But then when the tables turned last season, he got sucked into it. And then that's where the aggression goes against you, because you're already going in with a pissed off mindset, an angry mindset, this, that, and the other. So that's where your aggression, when you're in that mindset, your aggression, it leads, you're not using it the right way. Whereas when you're in a positive mindset, you look at when we were going for Champions League under Conte, he channeled it in the right way. And that's to do with the surroundings around him and the mood. I think the leadership is another one. The fact, I think you're seeing a lot more maturity to his game now, right? He's sort of, I think last season, I think he felt overshadowed by someone like Eric Dyer. And he's standing there going, well, hang on, I'm better than this guy. Why is this guy my leader? You know, he's constantly blaming me, constantly making mistakes, this, that, and the other.
Correct.
And yet he's going to speak to me. I think the fact that now he's got the vocals and the control across that back line, because he's our longest serving defender here now, if I'm correct. Whereas last season and maybe the season before that, it wasn't like that. It was under Dyer. So I think he felt a bit superior, but now he's gone. You're seeing Romero really grow into that role, being the leader. You can see him talking across the line. He's accepted that responsibility. He now realizes his tackles have to be perfect. He can't be making them lunges and stuff like that he was doing before. You can see it with him scoring the goals now and everything else, contributing to what we're doing. So I think the captaincy has brought around an element of maturity. And when you sort of get that maturity to yourself, that maturity then applies itself to your game. But also, the last thing I would say, Sean, is for me, it comes down to partnerships. And I spoke about this quite a lot last season with yourself when, you know, I was pulling my hair out with the likes of Dyer and Romero and Langley and people like that. I think you look at Van der Ven beside him, right? Romero doesn't need to make them rash challenges or bring people down because he knows Van der Ven has the pace to cover him. Whereas before, if he didn't, I truly believe this, in his head, he felt if he didn't take them down, they were going on goal to score because he didn't believe in Eric Dyer's ability. But also, Romero can give the ball to Van der Ven, and Van der Ven can run with it and play out with it. Whereas with Eric Dyer, that wasn't the case. Eric Dyer always played the safe option. Even if he went to clip a simple ball out to the fullback, it'd end up in the stands. And, you know, so I think them four teams alone, Sean, for me, style of play, leader, being made one of the leaders, channeling the aggression in the right way because of the environment around them, and then also partnership. I think them four things alone is why you're seeing Romero getting back to his best.
Yeah, I think you absolutely smashed that one, mate. Like to me, I think you can summarize all four of those different kind of influences into the kind of bucket of like confidence, right? Like if you're playing football that you enjoy, you're happier. Generally, if you're happier, you're more confident. If you're if you're playing with people that are next to you that you have faith in and confidence in, then that in itself breeds more confidence to you. Obviously, being given the leadership armband, that's a real sign of a statement of faith and support from your manager, which again will build your confidence. And so all of those things kind of compound on yourself to have a player that looks happier, looks like he's focused, looks like the responsibility he's enjoying to have, and a more confident person is always going to be better than someone who isn't, right? And when you've got someone who has the minerals and the stones in his locker to be able to be one of the best, he's a World Cup winner as well. Don't forget, like that, he is more likely to pull out the kind of 8 out of 10 performances, and it's going to be a really exciting period for Tottenham Hotspur if you can keep him happy. Because I think that last season, I was one of the people that, I'll wear the badge at the time. I thought he didn't particularly care about Tottenham. He put his country over his club, and I still stand by it. I do believe that is the case. I do think
most players do.
I know, especially from South America, and that they absolutely adore playing for their country. And I think that with everything that was going on, the style of football that was being asked of the players, I don't think anybody was happy at Tottenham last year. But no footballer wants to play football and not have the ball for 80%, 70% of the time. Right? No one wants to be defensive. Everyone, even defenders, want to be able to play attractive, aggressive front foot football. And so I feel like we've got a player in Romero now who's. I asked the question: is it class that's emerging, or is it just a bit of form? I think it's both. I think that the form is obviously massively superior to what it was last season from him, but as a consequence, we are now seeing the class emerge. And people were calling him a Rolls-Royce defender 2 seasons ago. Last year, people were mocking the idea that he was a Rolls-Royce defender. Yeah. I think that tag will come back this year if he can stay injury-free. And obviously, the consequences of him getting injured is, pretty dire. And so that's why we need, obviously mistimed tackles increase your likelihood of getting injured as well. So everything kind of comes full circle here. And for me, he is so important to this football club. Who would you say is the most important player in our squad in terms of the impact of their absence?
I'll be honest. From what I've seen Tuesday night, I'm going to say Basuma. I think you have Basuma there Tuesday night. I think you make a better game of it against Fulham because of what he offers in that midfield. The back line, yes, look, Sanchez failed to progress the ball. Davies took the safe option. Van de Ven, I don't think he put too much wrong on in terms of the ball. Or when it went back to Fraser Forster, yes, he booted it long. Vicario, maybe that wouldn't have been the case. However, saying all of that, even if they still done all of that, if you have Basuma on that pitch, he takes that ball, he runs through that midfield, he opens up the game, he creates huge chances. So for me, I think that is the most important position in this football team is Basuma.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shawnee?
No, I 100% agree, mate. I think that the drop off in quality for me is probably not Basuma. I think that there's a player. We have players that are competent enough to step up, whereas I don't think we have that at centre back. If you lose Van de Ven and Romero, we'll have Ash Phillips and Dyer, or Ben Davies and Ash Phillips, or whatever it is. Massive drop off. Assuming that Ash Phillips is of the standard that he probably is, then I think it's a massive drop off. I don't think that same drop off is there from Basuma to Højbjerg, but I think the impact of their absence will be more fondly felt, more firmly felt if you lose Basuma, because I just feel like he, like you say, is the engine. He does it. He's put in 16 tackles, right? So one of the reasons why Romero hasn't had to get booked yet or caught is because he hasn't had a tackle nowhere near as much as he used to. And he's also the guy who's creating most of the forward progressive passes as well. So to me, like losing Basuma is the biggest impact, I think.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think we've got anyone that can offer what he offers. I don't even think if you put Maddison back there, yes, I think he'll replicate it to some degree, but I don't think he'll be able to do it to the full effect that like Basuma has. And for me, I just think you take out Basuma, I think you're still going to see the breakdown between progressing the ball out from the back on your forward line, like it was evident Tuesday night. I just think you put Basuma in with a lot of that other crowd, the same other crowd, I think we get a different result.
Yeah. I completely agree, mate. Completely agree. Right, well, there you go, guys. That's the end of the this little Tottenham. Well, it's an indoor Tottenham walk. It's a Tottenham talk. No bugs here. We got Dave instead. Dave, I want to say massive thank you, mate. Guys, if you do want to, like I said earlier, find out the sort of more detailed conversation regarding Ash Phillips and Eric Dyer, why Ash Phillips got the promotion ahead of Eric Dyer. How do we feel about that? And obviously go into a bit more detail on the Sanchez situation. Then get over to Irish Hotspur, and also, of course, like, subscribe, and follow Dave and myself on all the different socials. Dave, any last words for the Spurs Talk Show community? We love you.
Yeah, look, keep getting behind your boy. Keep smashing the subscribe button behind Shawnee. Let's get him up to 20K. And winners are grinners, right?
Cheers, Dave. As always, guys, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And we'll see you on the next one. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.